Imagine, for a moment, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He was the most powerful man on earth. He commanded armies that conquered nations. He held the power of life and death over millions. Yet, every morning, before the sun rose, he would sit alone in his tent, shivering in the cold of a Dacian winter, and he would write a private note to himself. These notes were never intended for publication. They were weapons of self-correction. In those pages, he didn't celebrate his victories. He fought against his own ego. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for?" This is the paradox of Stoicism. We often mistake the Stoic for the unfeeling, the cold, the weak man who has simply given up. But the truth is far more terrifying to the status quo. The weak man isn't dangerous because he is physically imposing. The weak man is dangerous because society has ignored him, overlooked him, and left him alone with his thoughts. And if that weak man stumbles upon the ancient code of the Stoics, he stops being fuel for the fire. He becomes the fire. When you take a man who has nothing to lose, a man who has been broken by life, and you teach him to master his emotional control, to never react instantly, and to let his results speak for him, you create a quiet monster. You create a man who cannot be manipulated, cannot be baited, and cannot be stopped. This is not a guide on how to be a tyrant. This is a map for the silent architect. Over the next few minutes, we are going to dismantle the modern hysteria of the world and rebuild a fortress within your mind using 10 Stoic rules. These rules will not make you louder. They will make you more dangerous. Rule 1. Master emotional control. The first and most fundamental rule is the mastery of emotional control. Notice I did not say the suppression of emotion. The Stoic does not become a stone. The Stoic becomes a dam. The water still rushes. The pressure still builds. But instead of allowing it to flood the village below in a destructive torrent, the Stoic channels it into power. Seneca, who knew a great deal about dangerous environments, having been the advisor to the mad Emperor Nero, wrote extensively on anger. He called it a temporary madness. Think about that phrase. Temporary madness. When you are in a fit of rage, you are clinically insane for that brief window. You say things you don't mean. You burn bridges you need to cross. And you make decisions that feel righteous in the moment, but imprison you for years. The weak man who becomes dangerous understands that emotions are data, not directives. Fear is a signal of a threat, not an order to retreat. Anger is a signal of an injustice, not a license to destroy. When you sit in your room, staring at the ceiling, feeling the wave of anxiety crash over you, do not try to push the water back. Dive into it. Interrogate it. Ask yourself, is this impression within my control, or is it an external phantom? Epictetus taught us that it is not events that disturb men, but their judgments about events. When your girlfriend leaves, when your boss humiliates you, when you are laughed at, the chemical reaction in your body is real, but the narrative is optional. The untrained man feels anger and throws a punch. The Stoic feels the rush of adrenaline. His heart rate spikes, his vision tunnels, and in that split second, he pauses. He watches the sensation rise, Without identifying with it, he realizes he is the observer of the anger, not the anger itself. A man who can be provoked by a mere insult is a puppet, and his strings are held by anyone who knows how to push a button. Cut the strings. When you master your emotions, you become unreadable. And in a world of oversharing, the unreadable man is the most dangerous piece on the board. Rule 2. Never react instantly. This brings us to rule number 2. Never react instantly. In the age of instant gratification, the ability to delay a reaction is a superpower. We live in a culture that demands immediacy. Emails must be answered in seconds. The phone must be picked up on the first ring. The insult must be met with a witty comeback immediately. This is a trap designed to keep you reactive. A reaction is animalistic. A response is human. Marcus Aurelius practiced a specific mental technique he called the suspension of assent. When a shocking event occurred, or when someone shouted an accusation at him, he would not immediately agree or disagree with the appearance. He would hold the thought at arm's length and examine it like a suspicious object before bringing it close to his heart. When you react instantly, you are playing chess in bullet time against a grand master. You will blunder. Silence is a weapon that makes manipulators deeply uncomfortable. If a critic throws a spear at you and you catch it in midair, inspect it and lay it down gently. You have confiscated their violence. The dangerous weak man understands the power of the deliberate pause. When you receive a text message designed to provoke jealousy or fear, put the phone down. Wait an hour. Wait a day. In that gap, the emotional poison dissipates, and you see the message for what it is, a trap. By not reacting instantly, you starve the drama of the oxygen it needs to survive. You force the world to wait for you. You shift from being an effect of the world to being the cause. Train yourself to take the pause. Sip water. Breathe. Look out the window. In that silence, your enemy's strategy falls apart. Because your enemy, whether a person or a circumstance, calculated for your panic, not your poise. Rule 3. Stay calm during conflict. Conflict is the crucible where the weak are broken and the dangerous are forged. Rule 3 is to stay calm during conflict. Any animal can be calm when the sun is shining and the food is plentiful. But to maintain an ordered mind in the middle of a hurricane, that is the mark of the Stoic. Seneca wrote about the unconquered mind, the mens invicta. He described a sage who, even when the state is crumbling, the thunder is crashing, and his body is failing, remains unshaken, not because he is insensitive, but because he has conquered the inner citadel. This is the scene where the weak man reveals his danger. The bully expects you to cower. The tyrant expects you to scream. When you do neither, when you look at them with a calm eye, devoid of fear and devoid of aggression, you destabilize them. Conflict is rarely about the surface issue. It's a test of dominance. When you remain calm, you refuse to play the dominance game. Imagine a small dog barking hysterically at a large wolf. The wolf doesn't bark back. It doesn't need to. It simply stands there, silent and still, knowing its power. That stillness is terrifying to the hysterical. Practically, staying calm during conflict means lowering your voice when the other person raises theirs. It means slowing your movements when the energy in the room accelerates. When a mob panics, the disciplined man walks. When the tide of chaos tries to sweep you away, drop your anchor. This requires you to accept that you might lose the argument on the surface. You might let them have the last word. You might look like you backed down, but what did you really lose? Words? A pride point? The Stoic finds these things cheap. While they exhaust themselves thrashing in the water, you are swimming steadily toward the shore. The calm man in conflict is dangerous because he is the only one who can see clearly. He is the only one breathing, and the man who controls his breath controls the moment. Rule 4. Control your desires. A man driven by unchecked desires is an addict. He is addicted to pleasure, to validation, to sugar, to sex, to the dopamine hit of a notification. And an addict is easily bought. The state or the corporation only needs to dangle the right shiny object in front of him, and he will trade his freedom for it. Rule 4 is to control your desires. Epictetus gave a harsh warning. Whoever then wishes to be free, let him neither wish for anything nor avoid anything which depends on others. If he does not observe this rule, he must be a slave. Every time you desire something that is outside your control, a promotion, a specific romantic partner, a certain amount of applause, you are handing the keys to your peace of mind to someone else. You become a waiter. You are waiting for the call, waiting for the recognition, waiting for the reward. And waiting is suffering. The Stoic isn't a Puritan who hates pleasure. The Stoic simply cages his desires. He realizes that luxury is a form of weakness. When you are used to silk sheets, a rough night on a cot feels like a prison sentence. But if you train yourself to desire less, if you occasionally practice poverty, as Seneca advised, you become immune to the carrot and the stick. The dangerous, weak man is hungry, but not for the things you can give him. He is hungry for excellence, for virtue, for self-mastery. These are things you cannot dangle in front of him, because they are internal. He wants for nothing. And when a man wants for nothing, he cannot be bribed. He cannot be blackmailed. He cannot be seduced by the glittering traps of the material world. Look at the biographies of the great conquerors. They didn't fall because of a lack of resources. They fell because of a lust for power, wine, or women. By desiring nothing, you gain everything. When you can look at a pile of gold or a tempting vice and genuinely say, "You do not affect my virtue," you are free. And a free man is the most dangerous threat to a system built on slavery. Rule 5. Build discipline daily. There is a lie promoted by the self-help industry that you can change your life in an instant through a single decision. Stoicism begs to differ. Rule 5 is to build discipline daily. The towering structures of Rome were not built by massive, sporadic bursts of effort. They were built by the relentless, rhythmic chipping of the mason's hammer, day after day, in the blazing sun. Marcus Aurelius called this turning the soul to the daily task. He wrote, "Just as you ought not to hope for Plato's Republic, but be content with the smallest step forward, and consider the outcome of even this as no small matter. The weak man is often deluded by the allure of the grand gesture. He wants to go to the gym for 5 hours one day and then lie in bed for a week. He wants to apologize dramatically and then change nothing. The Stoic knows that character is a muscle. It is built on the days you don't want to do it. It is built in the cold, dark morning, when the bed is warm and the world is silent. It is that moment where you choose the difficult task over the easy one. This is the dangerous element. A man who disciplines himself every single day compounds his strength at a rate that the undisciplined cannot calculate, while the undisciplined man is at the mercy of his mood, productive when motivated, lazy when sad. The disciplined man operates like a machine. He is consistent. He is a solid, reliable force in his own life. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about alignment. You align your lower, fleshly, cowardly self with your higher, rational mind. You tell your body, you will get up now. You tell your mind, you will focus now, and they obey. Do not negotiate with terrorists, and do not negotiate with your own laziness. Build the daily ritual. Wake up, journal, read, move, reflect. If you fail, don't double down on guilt. Just get back to the rhythm. The dangerous man is not the one who never falls. He is the one whose discipline is so deeply embedded that falling out of rhythm feels physically sickening to him. Be that man. Let the rhythm of your discipline be the death drum of your old, weak self. Rule 6. Ignore unnecessary opinions. We are social creatures, and the ancient Stoics knew the brutal weight of the mob. Rule 6 is to ignore unnecessary opinions. If you want to see a man who is not dangerous, look for the man who is constantly performing for an audience. He is a puppet, and public approval is the hand moving his jaw. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, lamented how we waste our existence caring about what others think. He said, "You are mistaken if you think you have a long life. You have a short time spent. The rest is not life, but merely time. And how do we spend that time? We spend it worrying if the neighbors liked our new haircut, if our ex thinks we're successful, or if strangers on the internet approve of our political stance. This is a prison." Now, the Stoic distinction is crucial here. Ignore unnecessary opinions. This does not mean ignoring a mentor who corrects your form, or a trusted friend who warns you of a blind spot. The Stoic loves the truth, and sometimes truth comes through other people. But an unnecessary opinion is any opinion that judges your essence, your path, or your character without understanding it. Most criticism is just projection. Most flattery is just manipulation. When you build a fortress around your mind, the idle chatter of the mob sounds like the distant buzzing of flies. Annoying, perhaps, but insignificant. The dangerous weak man has often been mocked, dismissed, and underestimated his entire life. He has a burning memory of being laughed at, but he transmutes that pain into detachment. He stops seeking validation. He becomes self-referencing. When you don't need the applause, you stop bending over backwards to please people. You start making decisions that are true, not popular. A man who doesn't care about being liked is a man who cannot be controlled by social pressure. He will walk the path alone, and in that solitude, he finds an invincibility that the social butterfly, flitting from approval flower to approval flower, will never know. Rule 7. Focus on actions. The Stoic is not an academic. The Stoic is a warrior of the will. Rule 7 is to focus on actions. It is not enough to think well. You must act well. Epictetus was brutal on this point. He demanded that his students stop debating philosophy and start embodying it. He said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." There is a specific type of modern man who thinks consuming information is the same as applying it. He watches videos about discipline while eating junk food. He reads books about courage while hiding in his room. This is intellectual masturbation. It produces nothing. The dangerous man turns thought into a callus on his hands. He turns intention into sweat. When we focus on actions, we cut through the fog of anxiety. Anxiety lives in the gap between thinking and doing. You are not afraid of the work. You are afraid of the anticipation of the work. The Stoic, dangerous man closes that gap instantly. He sees a problem. He fixes it. He sees a goal. He walks toward it. He doesn't talk about his 5-year plan to anyone who will listen. He keeps his mouth shut and his hands moving. Think of the Roman soldier building a fort. He didn't discuss the aesthetic theory of architecture. He drove the spike into the ground. He dug the trench. He built the wall. That is how you treat your life. Stop speaking about who you are going to be. Show the universe who you are right now through the sheer force of output. Motion creates momentum, and momentum crushes mediocrity, while others are paralyzed by perfectionism. The action-oriented man is finishing the 10th draft, the 10th rep, the 10th attempt. He might not be the most talented, but he is the most prolific. And in the end, a graveyard full of unexecuted brilliant ideas is just a graveyard. The man who acts creates a life. Rule 8. Accept discomfort. There is a quote often misattributed to the Stoics, but perfectly in line with their thinking. The obstacle is the way. Rule 8 is to accept discomfort. We have been raised in a culture that worships comfort. We buy pillows that mold to our necks, air conditioning that keeps us at the perfect climate, and food engineered to melt perfectly on the tongue. And we have become, in Nietzsche's words, the last men, blinking stupidly, seeking nothing but warmth. Seneca practiced voluntary discomfort regularly. The wealthy playwright would sleep on the floor once a month, eat the bread of slaves, and wear rags. Why? Not because he hated himself, but because he wanted to ask, "Is this what I was afraid of?" When you voluntarily step into the cold shower, when you fast for a day, when you take the harder job, you are inoculating yourself against the fear of pain. The weak man who becomes dangerous has a high tolerance for suffering. He doesn't seek it out of a masochistic impulse, but he doesn't run from it. He knows that growth lives right outside the gate of his comfort zone. When life throws a disaster at him, a financial crash, a betrayal, a physical injury, he doesn't crumble into a screaming heap of, "Why me?" He says, "Ah, I have trained for this." He views the discomfort like a blacksmith views the fire. It burns, yes. It hurts, but it tempers the steel. In a world of soft men, even a slightly hardened man stands out like a titan. Accept the cold. Accept the hunger. Accept the boredom of the repetitive task. When you stop running from the sharp edges of life, you become a razor. The soft masses try to pad the world, but the Stoic knows the world is fundamentally a chaotic, challenging place. By saying yes to discomfort, you steal its power. You cannot be bullied by the threat of pain if you have already welcomed pain as your teacher. Rule 9. Protect your energy. We have established that the Stoic controls his time, his attention, and his actions. But Rule 9 dictates he must protect his energy as his most sacred resource. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. He knew the sheer drain of the crowd. He wrote, "People exist for one another. You can instruct them or endure them. Enduring them requires energy. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is strategic. Think of your energy as a bucket of water in a drought. Every interaction, every piece of content you consume, every thought you entertain, is either pouring water in or taking it out. The weak man who remains weak spills his energy everywhere. He gets sucked into Twitter battles with bots. He argues with a stubborn family member for 3 hours about a topic that doesn't matter. He obsesses over the news cycle, things happening on the other side of the planet that he can neither influence nor change. He leaks his life force into a void. The dangerous man is a miser with his energy. He is ruthlessly selective about who has access to him. He doesn't pick up the phone for unknown numbers. He doesn't let the stray dogs of gossip into his mental yard. This silence and distance create an aura of mystery. But more importantly, it creates a reserve of power. When the moment for action comes, when the final boss battle of a life challenge appears, he is not exhausted. He has been resting in movement. He has preserved his fire. Protecting your energy also means protecting your focus. The modern economy is an attention economy. The algorithms are designed to agitate you, because an angry person scrolls more and buys more. By refusing to be agitated, by training your attention on the deep and meaningful, you are committing an act of rebellion. You are reclaiming your life. Say no to the invitation that drains you. Walk away from the gossip circle. Close the app. Guard the sacred fire within you. Because if that fire goes out, you have nothing left to fight with. Rule 10. Let results speak. Finally, Rule 10. The culmination of all the rules. Let results speak. The Stoics had a deep suspicion of flamboyant speech. They were suspicious of the sophists, the traveling lecturers who could speak beautifully but lived hypocritically. The weak man, when he starts to gain a little power, wants to tell everyone. He wants to post the starting line photo. He wants to talk about the book he is going to write. He wants the credit before the work. Do not do this. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to speak little. And when you do speak, speak the truth plainly. No performance, no exhibition. The dangerous man operates in the shadows. He builds his kingdom while others sleep. And when the sun rises, the wall is simply there. He doesn't need to present a PowerPoint on how he built it. The wall speaks for itself. When you announce your intentions, your brain receives a deceptive dopamine hit. Psychologically, it feels as if you've already achieved the goal, which saps the motivation to actually bleed for it. The Stoic path is the path of the silent operator. You work not for the praise of men, but for the integrity of your own soul. The fruit of your labor will be visible eventually. You don't need to point it out. Let your character do the talking. Let your physique do the talking. Let your bank account do the talking. Let the clean, quiet order of your home do the talking. This is the final form of the dangerous, weak man. He is the one you dismissed as quiet. You thought he was a fool because he didn't argue back. Then, one day, you look up and he has surpassed you. He has built a world you can't even comprehend. And he did it right under your nose, because his mouth was shut and his hands were moving. Let results be your noise. We began in the cold tent of Marcus Aurelius, a man fighting to master himself against the temptation of absolute power. We end here with you, in your room, facing the temptation of distraction, mediocrity, and the temptation to remain weak. The Stoic rules are not a philosophy of parlor games. They are a declaration of war against your own fragility. Master emotional control so that you are the driver, not the car. Never react instantly so you own your timing. Stay calm during conflict because the still water runs deep. Control your desires because freedom is found in needing nothing. Build discipline daily, for Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built every day. Ignore unnecessary opinions, because the mob has never produced a masterpiece. Focus on actions, because thought without motion is decay. Accept discomfort, because the soft life is a slow death. Protect your energy, because it is the currency of greatness. And finally, let results speak, for the tree is known by its fruit. A weak man is only dangerous when he realizes that the battle is not out there. The battle is in here. The enemy is not the neighbor, the government, or the critic. The enemy is the undisciplined self. Go into the world, not with a loud roar, but with a silent, unshakable resolve. Don't tell them you are dangerous. Be dangerous.